We asked 100 married women, if you could have a second husband for only one purpose, what would it be? Something like 70% of them said just for sex.
Whoa. Damn.
A second husband for only one purpose.
Just for getting stuffed.
That's
rough.
Just sex.
That's a fucking wake-up call for a lot of dudes out there.
A lot of guys.
Let's end on that. Neil deGrasse Tyson, Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. Due out in May. Thank you so much, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
Man. Love you, man.
I love you too, brother. Thank you so much for coming here, and thank you anytime. Open invitation. Call me up, middle of the night. I'll come down here, we'll open it up.
And you got to wake him up.
He'll do it. He's down. He loves you too.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the first sponsor?
Why don't you talk about your website? Why don't you talk about Deskquad.tv?
Okay.
I'm doing this.
Hey, Deskquad.tv, we do a bunch of podcasts. We do Kevin Pereira, we do a bunch of people. We have different podcasts, comic book podcasts, video game podcasts, and you can find them all at Deskquad.tv. We're also going to be at the AVN next week with Sam Tripoli's Naughty Show, and that's Thursday night. And to get in on that, you just get one of the AVN passes. It's at Vinyl. It's a new nightclub. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a lot of people there. We have live shows all the time. We have them almost every Friday here at the Ice House. We have a new one that's coming up at Improv later this month on Melrose. And so go to Deskquad.tv.
Lots of fun shows. Really funny comics, always. If you see them on Death Squad show, for sure they're fun. And the T-shirts that you see everybody wearing, those Death Squad cat T-shirts, those are also available on DeathSquad.tv. Did I say that?
.gov.
Jesus Christ. Enough. So go there and support. And also, we're brought to you by Onnit.com. That's ONNIT. Don't go to ONIT because it's a totally different company.
What is it?
And I don't know. It's like they like sell banks or some shit like that. But what we sell manly shit, son. Okay, kettlebells, battle ropes, extreme kettlebell cardio DVDs, hemp protein, vitamins and supplements. All essentially stuff that I use. If we find out there's anything really cool out there, we try to find it. That's I think, a good philosophy to have. One of the newest additions is the BlendTech blender. Someone you might have seen online blending iPhones. You literally can blend an iPhone with this thing. It's amazing. But it's fantastic for shakes, for protein shakes or kale shakes, or for bulletproof coffee. Neil deGrasse Tyson does not know about the bulletproof coffee. We'll have to educate him. It's very important stuff. But all that stuff is available, like the upgraded coffee, Dave Asprey's stuff. We found out about it, so we started carrying it. It's awesome. Killer Bee Honey. Why Killer Bee Honey? Because it sounds cool to have. It's the only reason to have. I'm sure it's no better than regular honey. In fact, it's probably worse than regular honey. But it sounds gangster as fuck to have Killer Bee Honey in your house. So that's why I have it, and that's why we sell it. And it's a company that is as ethical as is possible and still run a business. There's in all the supplements, there's a 100% money-back guarantee of the first 30 pills for 90 days after you buy it. For 90 days, you can try it. Try whether it's Alpha Brain or whether it's Shroom Tech. You can read the science behind all of this, all of it, and on it. And if you have any questions about it, there's always someone who can answer questions about that on forums. But the most important thing is, if you don't feel like it works, you get your money back. You don't even have to return the product. No one's trying to rip you off. Use the code name Rogan, and you'll save 10% off. All right, that's ONNIT. Brian, cue the music.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night.
Without that, it would not be official. Neil Tyson, thank you very much for coming on here, man. This is an honor. This is a blast. I think the universe is going to explode. You are, for sure, the most requested podcast guest ever in the history of this podcast. So Brian and I have been doing this for 3 years, and we have come full cycle with your appearance here today.
I felt the magnetic force of your fan base pulling me in.
Are you sure that wasn't what the Mayans were talking about? You sure that wasn't the universe aligning? I was so happy when I saw you do this. I forget what the interview was, but someone was talking about the alignment of the stars and the galaxies the first time in 20. You're like, no, it happens all the time.
Yeah, it happens every year. Yeah.
I told my friend Eddie Bravo, who's a beautiful human being, but he loves himself a conspiracy theory. He loves that. When I told him, I go, dude, Neil Tyson says it's bullshit. He goes like this. Oh, okay.
Well, yeah,
it's
but
probably
see,
bullshit then.
But I don't want the authority of my academic pedigree to be what makes it bullshit.
Right.
I mean, I want to give people, I want to arm people intellectually so that they can then deduce that there's nothing to it. So when someone says planets are going to align and Earth is going to die, I want to encourage them to ask, how often do planets align like that? And then you get the answer every year. So you don't even have to do the calculation.
Well, it's that shallow sort of interest in a subject where it only allows you to regurgitate the really juicy shit you heard about the planetary alignment, which is so dangerous because when people are bullshitting, which is most of the conversation we get into, we don't get into serious academic discussions with people who have actually done the homework. You just bullshit with a dude at work, and he's like, yeah, I heard the fucking planets are going to align, and it's like, they don't even know what's going to happen. And you're like, whoa, what? Then you go back to your cubicle, shit in your pants going, are the planets going to fucking align? Is something going to happen that's going to...
I tweeted recently that if you're really successful at bullshitting, it means you don't hang around enough people who are smarter than you.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. You know, I think one of the cool things about you and your approach to science is I think it's very refreshing that if someone doesn't know something, you're not condescending about it. You're very enthusiastic about distributing the information, but you're not casting a judgment while you do that. And that is something that I think has freaked a lot of people out about really intelligent people or scientists or someone who talks about anything where they have no experiences. There's a sort of a condescending, sort of a carrying of that knowledge that you don't have.
You make a really important point, and there's the anti-intellectual movement in society, and I don't blame them entirely for feeling that way, because we all know people. I have many colleagues where you try to hang out with them and they make you feel bad for not knowing what they know. And
Yeah.
if that's how you interact with people, why would anyone want to be that?
Well, it's a problem of associating with shitty characters. They're not fun to be around. And unfortunately, you're associating something that's incredible, like the actual measurement of the universe itself.
Yeah.
You're associating that with annoying people.
Yeah, you got to detach the content from the deliverer of
It's
the
like,
information.
I dated a girl and she loved Duran Duran. Okay, when I was in high school, and after the breakup, which always has in every high school relationship.
That was 80, very 80s. If I
Yeah,
remember
I was like,
correctly.
fuck Duran Duran, man. Duran Duran sucks. I could not enjoy their music because I associated with this young lady.
Oh,
You
right,
know,
yeah,
it's
you were
like
psychologically scarred.
I
Yeah.
fucked myself. I couldn't enjoy Hungry Like the Wolf, Bad Boys, all those classics.
Mm-hmm.
I removed them from the menu because of this one chick. But that can happen with music that you actually would enjoy. Well, forget about like mathematics.
Right. If it happens with that, it can happen with everything up the ladder from there.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you're very important. I don't know if you know how important like the cool guy scientist is.
I can't tell you
It's
how many
very
times.
important.
No, so I have evidence of how important that is. I can't tell you how many emails I've got, or like tweets, or they say, people say that there's a guy who's like seriously geeked, and his girlfriend is not interested in him, and he says. What he does then shows her videos of me celebrating the universe, and she says, "Oh, is that what you do?" Oh, and then they resurrect the relationship because she then sees the potential for what the guy can do.
That's fascinating. Wow. Yeah, it's like by any means necessary, whatever it takes.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes to stimulate.
So I'm
and
happy
inspire.
to glue people back together if that's what matters here.
Well, you were the most important person when it came to the 2012 movement, because I was talking to so many knuckleheads. I had a guy on remember Pinchbeck? I was on the show. Something's definitely. It's like he's quoting all these reasons why things are gonna happen. I'm
Well,
like,
people love them some end of the world. I mean, that's.
certainly do.
I was at a party, and the person learned that I was an astrophysicist and walked up to me and I hear you're an astrophysicist. I said yes. He's, tell me, this is like a year ago, right? I hear the world is going to end in 2012, and then I explained why it's not. He walked away dejected, and I said to myself, What? Is like there's some people are only happy when they're sad.
Yeah, there's a thing where people are trying to uncover mysteries, and it becomes more important than the actual mysteries of the universe itself.
And you can do
weird.
simple statistics on this. So, for example, the world has been here for like billions of years, and you think it's going to end in your lifetime? That's awfully hubristic of you to
Yeah,
think that.
it's pretty bold. And even if it does, your world's going to end eventually anyway. I mean, you're really, it's so silly to like fixate on.
So, what I think the most effective encouragement I gave people during the Mayan non-catastrophe was, I said, all right, between now and December 20th, just convince your Mayan catastrophe people to sign over all their assets into your name. That's all.
Well, what's really crazy?
Very simple. And if they don't do it, they don't really believe what they're saying. Right?
They don't believe.
And if
No
they
one's
do,
willing
you
to
get
sign.
fabulously wealthy.
They're not going to give you that cash. Yeah, no one. Well, I'm sure some people did go nutty and like set up shelters in the desert and go underground and all that. There's a lot of people that went nutty.
Well, I did a little research on this. About every 10 years, somebody comes up with an end-of-the-world scenario. And you keep in mind that end-of-the-world scenarios, no one says, the world's going to end in 150 years, right?
Right.
It doesn't work because you can't gain adherence to
Right.
your cult that
Yeah.
you're building. It's got to be kind of immediate, but far enough in the future so that you can prepare, but near enough so that you're not going to forget about it at any time.
And it's really good if you can base it on some old shit that very few people can read.
And everybody thinks that the old folks really understood the universe when in fact they did not. Well, they understood a little bit of it, but to say that they knew more about the fate of the cosmos than modern day astrophysics, you must have flunked your math class, your physics classes or something. To think that way, I don't understand what's going on in those minds.
It's the same sort of thinking that wants to uncover mysteries and conspiracies. It's a weird excitement to like hidden things.
Now, you were a moon guy for a while, right? Is that
Yeah,
right?
well, listen, my issues with not believing that people went on the moon, a lot of it had to do with a friend who had an uncle who worked at Rocketdyne. And this guy was convinced that there was no way to do it. He was an engineer. And he said they were so far away from doing it that the fact that they did it, and they did it 7 times, but since looking at it, the weight of all the evidence, I reserve the possibility that some things were horseshit based on a lot of photographic evidence that they did fuck with.
Well, here's
like
the thing.
Gemini photos.
Yeah, but here it is. Here it is. If you look at like the fuel that was loaded up into the Saturn V rocket, you can calculate where that fuel could take that rocket. It's to the moon and back. So they're not going to the Piggly Wiggly, right?
Yeah.
In the Saturn V.
No, I'm a retard. Listen, if anybody has any real sense, they would look at it and say, "There's no way that was a hoax. There's no way." But
it would be harder. See, people think it was actually hard to get to the moon. Yes, it was. It was hard, certainly, but it would have been way harder to hoax it. Okay.
yes, today. But the thing about hoaxing things back then, the thing that was so compelling to me was that hoaxing things back then was really sort of the way they did it. I mean, that's how they got into the Gulf of Tonkin. That's
Well, you
Operation
fake news
Northwoods.
stories. You know.
Yeah, there was a lot of fakery going on back
Well,
then.
you're faking news.
It was the height of the Cold War, and there was a lot of reasons why I thought some fuckery was afoot, and and especially all these goddamn documentaries.
Okay, so you're
which-
saying you felt justified just because the landscape in which other things had been happening.
that and
Yeah.
visual stuff
Because
like
that was the decade where we lost confidence in our government.
Yeah.
You know, that was.
well, for good reason.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it was proven with Watergate, and it was proven. Well,
Yeah.
what they
Over and
didn't
over.
know about the Gulf of Tonkin incident.
over and
back
over,
then.
over and over. It was demonstrated.
And the idea that they were able to do that in 1969 but haven't been able to repeat it since, of course, makes it even more delicious. It makes it even more conspiratorial attractive. And then the fact that the rock that they had given to Holland turned out to be a piece of petrified wood. You know, there was a lot of weirdness to the moon landing conspiracy. And there was a lot of, not just people that were that admired it, but it was almost like a religious thing. My friend called it a technological Jesus. He said that if anything is scientific, you should be able to question it and someone would give you an answer. But there's a bit of emotion and attachment and pride with certain historical accomplishments, like one of them being the moon landing, that forbid people from actually questioning.
Well, it went beyond science. It was a cultural achievement.
Did you ever read Clinton's quote?
What was it?
Clinton wrote a book, My Life.
Clinton man, not Clinton
No,
woman.
Clinton
Yeah.
George. What's Bill? The guy who was the president guy.
George Clinton, that's the other guy.
That's the. His opinion is equally valid. By the
Those
way.
are two very different Clintons.
Yeah. I'll find it here for you.
The quote,
because
was
it's
it in his book, My
fascinating.
Life?
Yeah, it was in his book, and it was all on the time where it happened. He was working with a carpenter. It's
Well, while you're looking at it, the way I reflect on people who say we didn't go to the moon, well, I say, what a compliment it is of our emergent culture, technological culture, that there are members of our society that are so impressed with what we achieved that they can't believe it.
Well, yeah.
So I take it as a compliment that people stand dumbstruck, awestruck, that it is beyond their capacity to believe it.
I don't think it's beyond their capacity to believe it. I think if you had shown them, documentaries that didn't have any of the stuff that was in the shit that I saw, whether it was the moon, did we go, or there's another one, a funny thing happened on the way to the moon, where they just show over and over again all this fucked up footage, and it's very confusing to a non-scientifically minded person. You can get on a long downward spiral. And this Clinton quote, this fucks with me. Just a month before Apollo 11 astronauts Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong had left their colleague Michael Collins aboard Spaceship Columbia and walked on the moon, beating by 5 months President Kennedy's goal of putting a man on the moon before the end of the decade. The old carpenter asked me if I believed it happened. I said, sure, I saw it on television, and he disagreed. He said that he didn't believe it for a minute, that those television fellers can make things look real that weren't. Back then, I thought he was a crank. During my 8 years in Washington, I saw some things on TV that made me wonder if he wasn't ahead of his time. Yeah, look at this. It's a horrible quote to hear from the President of the United States if you're a confused young man and you think we maybe didn't land on the moon. You read something like that, you go, what the fuck does that mean?
Well, plus people in total give the government way more credit for organized behavior than they actually ever deserve. So
I think they believe the government killed Kennedy. And I think a lot of people believe that if they did that, they could kind of do a lot of things.
yeah, I mean, so okay, but science is going to move on while
Right.
you're arguing that, and so yeah, that's what we there's a point where you just say, all right, I got to move on.
That's the other thing that makes a conspiracy so juicy, is that science didn't move on when it came to manned space landings. That was the end. They
Well,
ended
yeah,
it.
the engineering of it, yeah,
Yeah.
it was the political will, it's money at that level,
Yeah.
right? And what all conspiracy theories have in common is that there's a point where you have to bridge a gap in the absence of actual data, and an assertion gets laced upon it to satisfy the claim that it's a conspiracy theory. So you say, they say, well, this is true and that's true, and the only way they can both be true is if this is covered up in between. So, somebody always has to say there's a cover-up. But when there's actual knowledge about the world, nobody has to talk about covered-up information. It's just there, writ large, ready to be absorbed and embraced.
I agree with you. The reason why the moon theory is so juicy for people is because there's so much of this stuff that you can point to, and so much of it that looks like evidence of fuckery. Whether it's
Well, take for example the assertion that the photos from the lunar surface, since the moon has no atmosphere, then a daytime picture. If you're there in the daytime of the moon, you see a full night sky of stars, even with the sun in the sky as well. You don't see stars in the daytime on Earth, not because they're not there, but because the atmosphere is aglow with scattered light from the sun. If you take away the atmosphere, the sun will still be there, but the sky goes dark. That's what the folks get when they go to the edge of the atmosphere, and they're calling that the edge of space. But when you get to the edge of the atmosphere is no longer between you and the rest of the universe, and the stars reveal themselves just as they would at night. So everyone knew this. So you see these photos from the moon, and there's Neil and Buzz and the lander, and there's no stars in the sky. It's just dark. And they'll say, see, it's fake. And these are people who've never taken photography, all right? If you are exposed for the bright reflective light of the astronauts in the lunar surface, that camera exposure, even in the Hasselblads that they carry to the moon and use, is too short to take in the dim light from the stars of the night sky. If you turn the camera to the sky, a much longer exposure with sensitive film, you'll get the stars, but then you overexpose the stuff in the foreground. So photography 101 answers that question. But there are huge websites given unto this. And so what that told me was that people simply wanted to believe that it was a hoax, and then made all the information fit that need without actually caring about the scientific truths that, with any evidence, would disprove all of what they were thinking. So at that point I said, people just believe what they want. And so my task was not to debate Unhoaxers as an educator. My task is to get people thinking straight in the first place, so you're no longer susceptible to the kinds of thinking where you become selective about the data that you choose to believe, or you get duped by someone who's exploiting the laws of physics for their own financial gain. Excuse me, they're exploiting your ignorance of the the laws of physics for their own financial gain. So I see science literacy as a kind of vaccine against all of the world around you that would just simply take advantage of your goodwill and good nature.
Certainly with things that can be easily explained, like you're talking about the light and the setting of the camera, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
but they led with that, then I explained that. Oh, well, then how about, and they start
Yeah.
going down a list, and I've time to go to dinner, I mean,
Right. So that is a huge problem where, and certainly when I watched my first documentary on the Fox one, the moon landing, it was a big, the moon, did we go? And there was all sorts of compelling evidence that was really weird, like photographs from different spots on the moon, but they had the same backdrop, and using this idea that they had done these inside some gigantic sound studio. And when you see something like that on television, you saw like Brian O'Leary, who is an astronaut.
And once again, it's on TV.
Yeah,
So
of course.
there's the authority built into
Yeah.
the medium.
And then talking to this dude's uncle, or him telling me what his uncle said, actually, it was such a, it's one of those things where you go, okay, we know they lied about this, we know they lied about that, they lie about things.
The government lies all the
Jessica
time.
Lynch and,
But
millions of stories.
the government have to lie as well as 10,000 scientists and engineers. I mean, think about this. Just think about this. We knew more. If there were ever a state secret that the government wanted to keep, it would be the behavior of President Clinton's generals. Okay? But that got out. And only 3 people knew this. 3. All right? You're going to hoax a moon landing by telling 10,000 scientists and engineers to keep it secret for 40 years? That's not how humans behave. What was it? Was it Lemony Snicket who said? I forgot who the author was of this quote. Who said the only way you can keep a secret between 2 people is if one of them is dead.
But that's not true militarily. I mean, we've kept big secrets for long periods.
Well, you can keep but really delectable secrets don't last. I can keep a secret that there's a bunker that I'm going to run to, sure. But to keep a secret that like aliens landed and are DNA experimenting on us, that would get out. That's what people do. Stuff lesser stuff than that gets out.
Well, when you hear things about like Area 51 and like the Robert Lazar interviews, have you ever heard
For
any of
it
that
to
stuff?
be true requires that you say someone is keeping something secret.
So you don't think that anybody's capable of keeping secrets?
Not on that level. Oh no.
I don't.
Oh my gosh.
I completely disagree. I think that
I mean,
friends
no,
can keep secrets.
Oh, sure.
I
Wait.
think-
Yes, I mean the quote with the one has to be dead. That's an exaggeration,
Right,
of course. But beyond a certain number of people, the conduct of human beings, if the secret is really juicy and really, really tantalizing, I think there's 0% chance that that's likely.
I disagree.
There'd be diaries. And there'd be like people telling their families, like we didn't go to the moon.
Look
There'd
at
be
the
least
secrets
one
we
or two.
already know. Look at the secrets that get out.
Yeah.
That
No, listen. I mean, for sure, most secrets get out. However, I absolutely think it's completely possible for people to keep secrets.
Actually, that's an experiment that you can't conduct.
Right.
To say, because
Make a fake.
no.
event happen.
No. The statement, most secrets get out. For
Right.
all you know, that's 100% of the secrets.
It could be. Yeah, you're right.
That's just a simple,
I doubt it,
untestable fact.
Well, don't you have any secrets in your past that you got away with? Sure, a lot of people got away with some secrets.
Yeah, but I didn't tell it to 10,000 people and say, keep it a secret.
Well, the idea is that if you're talking about NASA, the idea about the moon landings was that it was compartmentalized. And, you know, the big one is that Stanley Kubrick was the. There's actually a documentary, a fascinating documentary. Again, fucks with my head because, as I've always said, it's terrifying when you're too stupid to know who's dumb. And that is often where I find myself when I'm watching these things. And there was this documentary that was all about the different sort of techniques that Kubrick used in 2001 and how he
All
had
brilliant and
changed,
pioneering.
Yeah, he had changed the way you reshot gigantic scenes by some new process called it was something about front projection. I think that was basically what the name of the process. And then he showed all the evidence of front projection footage in the moon landings. And again, you're fucked because you're sitting here, and I don't, you know, I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, well, who's right here? Is this what's? Have you ever seen the video of the astronauts on trampolines?
No, I haven't.
I never thought in my life that I would be in the position to have a real astrophysicist watch a ridiculous video. And so I want you to,
You actually
Brian,
put
pull
this-
up astronauts on trampolines.
You're putting this up. Okay.
You got to see it. It's beautiful.
I don't think I've seen it.
It's astronauts, and the conspiracy is that they are either on trampolines or they're on some sort of a wire harness because of the way they're moving, and that they're moving behind the lunar rover, and that's to hide either the trampoline or hide the movement of their feet, like the way the shot is positioned. And it's a lot of fun. This one drives me bananas.
Okay,
Check
so
this
it's
shit out.
playing
Here
now.
it
All
is.
right, I'm checking it out.
Now watch this.
We were going to do a bunch of exercise that we had made up as the Lunar Olympics. Show you what a guy could do.
Doesn't that look like a guy just got yanked up in the air? Well, check this out.
For a 380-pound guy, that's pretty good. They threw that out. Yeah, jump flat-footed, straight in the air. 300, about 4 feet.
They fell down. Look at this.
Whoa.
I mean,
That ain't any fun, is it?
what are they doing?
That ain't very smart. Well,
I mean, obviously, if you're a person who's not scientifically inclined and you're prone to conspiracy theories, guilty of both, and you see something like that, you go, what the fuck is going on there? Is that really the moon? Are they really jumping around like they're on trampolines? It looks like a guy's getting yanked up by wires on the moon.
Well, I'm just saying, you look at the trajectory of the Saturn V rocket, and so
That's
to
nice, but
have a
that
subsequent
doesn't mean a person was in it. When you watch that, doesn't that look weird, though?
Well, okay, you're saying if you don't know what the laws of physics would do on the surface of the moon.
1/6 gravity. When you're watching this, doesn't that look weird to you?
Okay, so I understand the how susceptible one can be when you're confronted with what is given as evidence. Yes, yes. So and if I don't otherwise come across that way, I am sensitive to that.
Right.
I'm if you don't otherwise have the tools to analyze information, then one is susceptible to all manner of forces of thought that go around you. And like I say, by then for me, I don't have the energy to fight all of that.
Right,
Like,
of
I just teach people sort of how to think about information, and then I walk away, and then they make a life of they vote for whoever they want, but they've got intellectual defenses, and so that's that. There are other people who take them on head to head. You know, like Michael Shermer, big skeptic,
Yes.
and more power to him. He's got the patience. He's got good analogies and and he can present to you the evidence, the psychological evidence of why we're susceptible to this. He's got a whole book called "Why We Believe Weird Things." You know, I mean, it's.
Do you think it's weird to look at that video and think it looks odd?
It'd be weird if you otherwise knew
What it looked
that
like.
a 33-story rocket filled with fuel launched from Cape Canaveral took several orbits around Earth, went to the moon, took pictures from the front side of the moon, the back side of the moon, images from the surface of the moon. A week later, it comes back. An aircraft carrier goes into the Pacific to pick up a capsule out of the ocean. People get out of the capsule, get on the spacecraft. The president meets them. Life magazine writes profiles.
But
and then
that's all emotion.
but it all built.
After you get to a certain point.
I'm just
in
saying
time,
it
it's kind of pointless.
builds, and then someone shows you a video and says,
Right.
"Well, maybe all of that that was all fake.
Well, the idea is not even that it all didn't happen. A lot of the idea proposed in the Kubrick documentary was that the footage was fucked up and that they made a lot of extra footage. And a lot of what you see is fake footage where they were worried that they weren't going to be able to do it, so they decided to fake it, and some to see if they could fake it. There was two schools of thought.
Okay, that's a whole other thing. That's
a whole
we
other
did
thing.
go, but they needed a movie director to help out the view.
Well, you ever see the Michael Collins photos? These are really annoying, but I'll show them to you. Where this was Gemini 10 spacewalk, but it wasn't really a spacewalk. It was a simulation. They just blacked out the back and used it as NASA used it as like press clippings. So when conspiracy people get a hold of that, they go, aha!
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
probably just they needed a photo. They didn't have one. The fucking guy really did spacewalk. Duh. And they just decided to just do a little fuckery. Just say the guy's walking around space. When you
The
see
closest photo on the shelf, yeah, and pre-Photoshop.
Sorry, Lucy.
pre-photo, yeah, it's like they painted it, right? So like you see something like that with your knowledge of physics and with your understanding of vacuums and zero gravity, that doesn't look.
Oh, it's completely straight. It's completely.
It looks totally normal.
Well, yeah. It depends on how quickly they return to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are you have to sort of judge that, and but I'd want to see more. I mean, this is a pretty tight shot, and
Right.
Other things. You wanted to look at how far away the
Yeah.
horizon is. Of
course.
Earth is smaller. The moon is smaller than Earth, so I want to see if dust was kicked up, and does the dust fall at the slower rate that
Right.
the astronaut falls? I don't see the dust in this, so
Right.
I'd say this is not enough information. If I was cold, presented to this,
So if somebody
because
made
you can't put wires on dust,
Right.
and suspend the dust and have it descend as slowly as an astronaut bouncing
right.
does.
So you mean like the lunar rover dust?
Oh yeah, or every time they step, the dust
Right.
came up. So so you'd look at all of these cues, and there's so many cues that would happen naturally, if it actually happened, that you'd have to think up and get perfectly to fool an expert who knows what they're looking at.
If they know what it's
That's
like.
why
in a
it would have
vacuum.
been easier to simply go to the moon than to fake all of that. That's my point.
This is the one where it looks like the guy gets yanked up by a wire. Have you ever seen this? Check this out.
Oh,
Guy's on the ground. Look at this.
yeah, he fell forward and just popped back up.
Yeah, and now what people, I think, especially people like myself, would have to wrap their heads around, I guess, is that this isn't just a vacuum, but it's also a vacuum and 1/6 Earth gravity. So you're dealing with a completely alien environment.
So how much do you weigh right
190?
now? 190. You packing it in there, huh? So
You're saying I'm fat? How rude. Neil Tyson just said I'm fat. Don't make me show you my six-pack, son.
the Budweiser on the side of the table.
How rude again. This is damaging to my confidence.
So you have muscles to accommodate your 190-pound
The fuck
body.
yeah, I do.
All right.
Look at
so,
that shit.
So now let's add a 200-pound pack on you, backpack. So now you weigh 400 pounds. All right.
Well, he said 335, but I'll give you that.
Okay. Yeah. Just round.
Right,
Just
that's what he
round
just
it.
said.
Just get big round
Right.
numbers.
Is that what he said?
Okay.
350?
So let's say you now weigh 420 pounds. You're sluggish here on Earth.
Right.
I put you on the moon. Your muscles that normally are accustomed to 190 pounds now are carrying, are maneuvering, are manipulating 1/6 of 420 pounds, which is 70 pounds.
Right.
Imagine how awesome you would be, how awesome you would
If
look.
you weighed 70 pounds.
If you have this musculature and you weighed 70 pounds, you'd be Superman.
You couldn't crack an egg, though. You'd hit people, they'd laugh at you. You know?
You would be Superman.
You'd have to have really good technique.
You would pop up. You would just on your toes.
Yeah.
You'd jump to the ceiling. So it's cool.
So what I'm confusing is what would happen in an Earth's environment.
That's your life experience. So
Right.
this is the bias you bring to it. It's an
Right.
understandable bias, and that's what makes the world, the moon, an otherworldly place.
So
'Cause
70
it is
pounds,
It's that literally.
You literally could spring up as if you were pulled by a cord, like you would look like.
You can spring better because the cord has to make you feel like you're 70 pounds, but now you are 70 pounds. So you just do it.
I really enjoyed MythBusters' version of it. They went into depth about flag waving, and I thought it was really fascinating to watch where they actually created a vacuum and had the flag wave in a vacuum. And it's weird because it doesn't. You know, we have an idea in our head of what it looks like when a flag waves. Well, that's obviously the wind moving that flag. But there's wind here. There's nothing. There's zero atmosphere. Now, when someone would run by a flag in zero atmosphere, does it create any wind? Is
No,
there
not at all.
anything?
Nothing.
So if a guy hops by a flag and the flag blows in the breeze, what's causing that? Is that a faked footage, or
Well,
is
it depends.
fake video?
Yeah, yes. If you walk by a flag no, has nothing to do with zero G. It has to do with no atmosphere.
Right,
Right.
yeah.
So you walk by a flag, there is no breeze that is left behind you in the wake
Right.
of your steps, and depending on how much air you displace, things next to you might respond to that. If there's no atmosphere, no, there's no way to get that information to the flag.
So
now,
Brian, pull that up. Pull that up. Flag blowing in the breeze. I'll tell you the video it is.
No, so what you have here is with the American flag that's set up there, there's sort of residual stiffness to the flag. There's residual stiffness to the
Right.
to the beam that has to hold the flag, otherwise it
Right.
will hang limp.
Yeah, there's
Right.
a shaft through the top of the
Exactly.
flag.
There's a famous quote by Arthur C. Clarke, who, and at one point I tweeted this, where he said it's in space where there is no air, a flag cannot wave. So maybe space is not a place where flags belong.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Apollo 15 is the one. It's really fascinating because they stick it into the ground, and then the dude hops by it, and when he hops by it, it wiggles in the breeze. Like there, you can see clearly that the
No,
shaft
he had
is
just
over the top
stuck
of
it in the ground.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm
Okay.
saying the shaft is in it,
Mhm.
and it's in place, and it's still sort of reacting to
Mhm.
the environment. right?
Sure.
Now watch what happens when the guy gets behind it. Now he's sort of moving along, and he gets in front of it. And when he hops in front of it, the flag follows him like it goes in the breeze.
Maybe his
How
leg
long is this
touching
video?
it.
No, nothing touches anything. Pull it ahead.
Well,
Pull
if
pull
it does move, the evidence would suggest that something touched it.
Right, you
Okay.
would say.
Right. So something. See his foot, how close his foot is to the base
Yeah,
of
that's
the.
not where the video is. Keep going,
Oh,
though,
okay.
Brian. Keep going. Get it to the part where the guy goes around. He's taking some pictures here.
Right. So here.
It would have been much better if we queued this up. Cue it up to like right there. Okay.
Okay, but I can
so
make.
watch.
I can make
Okay,
a-
back it up. You
Mhm.
missed it. You back. So now it's wiggling. Just get it to right when the guy hops in front of it. Dude, you suck at YouTube. You really suck at YouTube. You missed it
Yeah, I
again,
don't
you
s-
fuck. Jesus Christ. The guy goes hopping in front of it. Here it goes. And you see it wiggle in the wind?
No, I missed. Can you do that?
Do
You
it
had stuff
again.
on the screen there. Okay.
Fucking ad popped up.
Mm-hmm.
See that? What's
Yeah,
that?
yeah. It looks like a breeze blew it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
So
do you think it's
either-
possible that that's fake?
Yeah. So either all of this got faked, or something touched the flag that was not obvious
No,
from
that's
this.
not
No,
true.
but that's
Well,
my
look-
point.
But
No,
it's
that's
not either. It's not either. It could have easily been that some of the footage didn't come out well, or they faked some of the footage, or that was
What if his
faked, or that
arm-
might not have been even real Apollo footage.
No. So, no.
I mean, that might have been something that someone made and then put it up as a goof, and then everyone like me is saying that's
exactly.
Apollo
So
footage.
here's my point. So there's a lot of fakery out there, official and otherwise.
Right.
All right. And the most susceptible field of investigation to fakery is ufology, right? Okay.
Sure.
So here's my point.
Or ghosts.
Okay, you're looking at a picture that's relatively low quality, that doesn't see the entire zone around the flag, that you don't have full information. So someone goes by and the flag wiggles. Either this was faked and there is air and the flag is responding to air, or there's something and the whole Apollo 15 mission didn't happen, if you want to take it to an
Yeah,
extreme,
that doesn't mean that,
extreme
though.
limit, or there's something that didn't make it into this photo.
Right.
And that's all. It's not.
Could have been like as he jumped, maybe a piece of dust.
a piece of something
kicked up and hit it,
precisely.
and we don't see it because it's such low
Or
res.